So recently, there's been an increased effort to focus on more alternative, less relevant things like changing fort names and defending statues and taking down statues and all this symbolic, waste of time has now become some kind of national side-taking civic duty once again. So it's another one of those things where it's like, all right, you have an initial issue that everybody kind of can sympathize with and feel compassionate about, right? So in this case, it's police brutality and more specifically, George Floyd. And I think 90% of people can say, wrong, he got murdered. Okay, we can carry on. Now, the issue that was being protested initially was let's end police brutality. And on that part of Black Lives Matter, I can agree with it, although I have some disagreements on other topics, but that's for another video. Actually, I've already made one on that. But so they take this initial feeling of anger and distrust towards politicians and towards those in power, and the feeling that they're taking advantage of their power and demanding that they fix it and that they introduce substantive changes that will make the police better and increase trust between the community and the police, right? So that's what the initial people want to do. Now, what it ends up being is you have radicals on both sides. So you have radicals on the left saying disband the police, and you have radicals on the right, well, I won't even say radical. There's people on the right talking about useless things. So they're talking about equally useless things. So on one hand, you have disband the police, which is like kind of stupid. On the other hand, you also have let's change the names. Let's keep the names of bases of Confederate people, of Confederate generals and all that good stuff. But listen, the fact of the matter is, nobody cares about either of those things as long as you have actual substantive policy change. Like, listen, this is what they always do to you. They make you pick a side when initially everybody was in agreement. So everybody basically was like, okay, we can see there's an issue, let's try and fix it. But then all of a sudden they make it a whole different issue that nobody cares about. Who actually gives a shit about the name of a base? And they make it the big issue. And then the Republicans are like, oh, horrible, keep our history. Then the Democrats are like, oh, let's take them down. Who gives a shit about a fucking statue? Listen, I understand the importance of social symbolism and the importance of having, these statues that represent nothing but slavery. But that's not the main issue here. The main issue is what you really want to attack right now is the top, those that are making policy, and force those people at the top to, instead of, you can have as many kente cloths on you as you want, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, but that won't change the policy. That won't change the law. But what will change the law is when you submit an amendment or you submit a bill that will increase, transparency between the community and police departments, or you can end the war on drugs, or you can demilitarize the police. All these things that you can actually do, but no, instead they choose to do the symbolic things, and they choose to make you, and you focus on them because you fall for it every time. They make you focus on statues and on bases of, This, guys, they do this every single time, and it always works because we're so divided, we're so polarized that you love taking sides. You love picking, oh, I'm right, he's wrong, he's a libtard, He doesn't care about our history. Nobody's talking about history in the first place. Nobody cares right now. What they care about is that you have real police reform and justice reform. And I think that's good. And a lot of the time people conflate race with class. And a lot of the reason why, there's more people in jail that are black than white is because white people can afford their bails because they're generally richer and black people can't. But anyway, that's a whole different topic, right? But the forefront should be change policy. Then once that's done, then you can focus on statutes and on changing bases, but don't make that the focal issue. And by letting those politicians make it the focal issue, you're hurting your own movement, and you don't even realize it. And yeah, it happens every time, guys. So it's saddening, and I implore you, I encourage you all to see beyond the optics of politics and to see what's really happening here. And the fact of the matter is, nobody really wants to do any police reform, and especially in DC, all they want to do is keep the status quo, kneel, have some kente cloth, and then they're done. That's their job done. And now, obviously, when it's time to actually do real criminal justice reform, nothing, nada, nishta. It's all done. Like they feel like, oh, this is all past. Like it's all good. So yeah, just if you are a activist, I encourage you to not focus on and encourage others to not focus on statues. Although they are important, they should not be the priority. They should be a secondary thing once the policy has changed. Because whether you have a statue of, I don't know, Lincoln or not, and obviously Lincoln's a bad example, but let's just say, if having the statue of Abraham Lincoln and not having the statue of Abraham Lincoln isn't going to change police brutality. But I'll tell you what is going to change police brutality: changing the law, changing transparency, holding police to account. And yet again, everybody falls for this whole fort. And then obviously Trump and Kelly McEnany, his press secretary, that's their main talking point now, because they don't want to touch on the actual issues. They want to make it this whole stupid shit that nobody gives a that nobody cares about. And this is once again where Tucker Carlson is right. So